Before our wedding, Clara asked me if she could have 1 month to try and get back together with her ex-boyfriend. If she succeeded, she explained, it would prove that her first love was her true destiny. If she failed, she would come back to marry me, promising she would never think of him again. I didn't argue with her. Instead, I replied with sincerity, "Go ahead, give it a shot. After all, isn't life about living without regrets?" That very night, as she drove off in a state of excitement, I began to pack my own things. I called my parents. "Mom," I said, "I'm not getting married anymore. I'm coming home to help with the family business." I could feel the sheer excitement radiating from my mother through the phone. "You've finally come to your senses. Your dad and I have always said that girlfriend of yours wasn't the right one. How many years have you two been together without ever settling down? We'll start making arrangements for you. It's just in time, too. We really need help with the accounts at the family art studio." I didn't say much in response, just quietly agreed with her. Being away from Clara suddenly seemed like a very good thing. Looking around at the wedding favors scattered across the floor, I could only feel a sense of amusement with myself. I had spent 7 years of my life with Clara, supporting her through the difficult startup phase of her business and those tough early years. I truly thought we had finally reached the finish line, but it turned out to be nothing more than a pipe dream. Back when we graduated from university, all of our teachers and classmates assumed Clara and I would be holding our diplomas in one hand and our marriage certificates in the other. I had even worn a wedding dress to our graduation ceremony as a grand romantic gesture. While everyone else was wishing for professional success and high salaries, I had defiantly refused the comfortable path my parents had laid out for me and chose Clara instead. My only wish was to marry her and for us to be together forever. Over the years, all of my friends got married, and some of them even remarried. I, however, was still waiting for Clara. I was waiting for her to be ready, waiting for her to finally say that she wanted to get married. I never expected that we would remain in that state of limbo for 7 long years. At every single reunion, the question of when my wedding would take place became a regular topic of conversation. My friends would always try to help cover for me, telling people that I was simply enjoying the freedom of love too much to settle down into marriage. But only I knew that wasn't the truth. I wanted to settle down more than anyone. I wanted to marry Clara sooner rather than later. The problem was that Clara was always waiting for someone else, her first love, Julian. 3 months ago, Julian had returned to the country. Clara didn't say much about it, but she suddenly became much more active in preparing for our wedding. She tried on wedding dresses with me patiently, spending entire days from morning until night going from one boutique to another. We went for menu tastings at different hotels, one after the other, and she never once showed a hint of impatience. She even developed a sudden keen interest in picking out the wedding favors, which was such a minor detail. I thought she was trying to reassure me, to show me that she had finally let go of Julian. That illusion shattered one night when I woke up to find her in the study, reverently taking Julian's old belongings out from a box on the bookshelf. She was holding them as if they were priceless treasures. I stood in the doorway the whole time, watching her as she sat there, lost in her memories. That was the moment it finally hit me. It was no wonder things had dragged on for so long between us. Our marriage was never just about the two of us. It was entirely dependent on whether Julian still wanted Clara. I was merely an extra, a supporting character in this long-running drama. There's an old saying that the things we can't have in our youth will haunt us for our entire lives. If that's true for material objects, one can only imagine the hold that someone you once loved so deeply could have on you. The wedding was getting closer, and our to-do list was growing longer by the day. The wedding favors, which had been delivered just that afternoon, arrived poorly packaged. After a frustrating and unsuccessful negotiation with the vendor, I took them home to repackage them all myself. I had worked on them so late into the night that everything began to feel blurry. and when I finally looked at the clock, I realized it was already past midnight. Clara still wasn't back yet. She had been invited to an out-of-town event, and her flight was scheduled to land at 11 p.m. Just as I was about to send her a text message, I heard the front door open. She came in carrying several bags and habitually kissed my cheek as she entered. Besides the gifts she had brought back, she was also holding a bouquet of flowers. "Leo," she said softly, "thank you for being by my side all these years." I knew exactly why she was saying that. Back when we graduated, she had a dream of starting her own business. No one believed she could succeed, except for me. I went against my parents' wishes, used the money they had saved for my future, and sold all of my own small properties to fund her startup. It turned out that my choice was the right one. Clara's company is now a top player in its industry, thriving and incredibly successful. She had always been one to meticulously plan her life. And now that she had achieved everything she set out to, it was only natural that she wanted to resolve her past regrets. So, when she set the gifts down, looked at me, and earnestly told me she wanted a month to try and win Julian back, I wasn't surprised in the slightest. "Leo, I don't want to live with regrets," she said, her voice full of emotion. "You don't want me thinking about someone else after we're married, right? I promise, if it doesn't work out, I will let Julian go completely. I'll stay with you forever." She spoke with such sincerity that I even saw her eyes redden with tears. In that moment, I found myself unable to refuse. I felt like I was the villain, standing in the way of a great love story. When we first started dating, she had been upfront with me, telling me that her heart still held a place for Julian. If I couldn't accept that, she said, then I shouldn't be with her. Back then, I had recklessly agreed, thinking she just needed a little time to move on from her past relationship. I never imagined it would come to this. "All right, go for it," I replied to Clara, matching her earnest tone. After all, isn't life supposed to be lived without regrets? She didn't even double-check that I had actually agreed. She was just grateful that I understood her, as always. She packed a bag excitedly and drove off into the night. I stood in the living room, looking at the wedding favors scattered everywhere. They were elegantly packaged, each one carefully wrapped by my own hands. It was a shame they would never be given out now. I picked up the bouquet she had left on the floor and noticed the small card attached to it. It read, "Julian, long time no see. Hope you're well." The card caught me off guard. Clara must have bought 2 bouquets, one for me and one for him, and simply gotten them mixed up in her haste. I didn't mind. I just wondered if she would feel awkward when she presented Julian with the wrong bouquet. I tossed the flowers into the trash can and saw a notification on my phone. My mom had already booked my flight out. She sent a text message saying the flight was in a week. "You've been in this city for so many years," she wrote. "You might as well take this chance to say goodbye properly." With Clara gone for the next few days, I took the opportunity to take a good, long look around the city that had been my home for so long. I had meals with friends and said my goodbyes. Clara kept checking in with me every day over the phone. "Leo, what are you up to? I miss you," she'd say. "Not up to much, just packing at home," I would reply honestly. She never dug any deeper, just rambled on about where she was and what she was doing. She mentioned that she was about to meet Julian and was feeling really nervous. Over the years, sharing every detail of our days had become a habit for both of us, especially during her business trips when we'd always tell each other how much we missed one another. Now, even as she was on her way to meet Julian, she still called to update me. Habits can be a scary thing. I went silent for a moment on the phone. "Are you mad? Why aren't you talking?" she asked. "No," I managed to say. "I wish you well." I'm not sure how those words even escaped my lips. Clara also went quiet for a while. Then she said she'd be back soon. No matter what the outcome is, I still love you, she said before hanging up. I believe her words were true, but they didn't mean much to me anymore. Because this time, I was finally ready to let go. 3 days later, Clara returned. I didn't expect her back so soon, and standing next to her was Julian. I remember the first time I met him. I was actually full of envy. He was the kind of classic bad boy who flaunts it, handsome and flamboyant, with an aura that a guy like me, brought up under the strict rules of his parents, simply didn't possess. He wore sunglasses and had a tattoo visible on his neck. "Leo, long time no see," he said. Oddly, compared to my memory of him, Julian now seemed more worn out. He politely asked if he could come inside. I was a bit surprised. He had changed a lot over the years. As he came in, he accidentally knocked over a decorative teddy bear with a red bow. "Oh, I forgot to congratulate you. Wishing you and Clara a happy marriage," he said, handing the bear back to me. I didn't say much, just gave a slight nod. Julian made a round through the house, which looked particularly empty. Over the past few days, I had sent most of my belongings back to my parents' home. What was left belonged to Clara, along with some shared items. Clara finally noticed the emptiness. "Leo, why is it so empty in here?" she asked. "Just decluttering. I had too much stuff to sort out." I brushed it off with an excuse. Once we were all seated, Julian took off his sunglasses. That's when I realized why he seemed so different. Underneath them were bruised eyes and visible scars. "As you can see, life's been hard," he said. It turned out that when Julian went overseas, he hadn't gotten married. It was just a fling. He ended up getting stuck there, developed severe depression, and couldn't return until he reconnected with Clara. "All these years, Clara's help is the reason I'm not dead," Julian explained. When Clara heard this, she visibly tensed. I knew why. They hadn't just gotten in touch recently. They had been in contact this whole time. Clara would accompany me every year at the end of the year for a month. Without her, I wouldn't have survived. So Clara's month-long business trips every year-end were actually her going to see Julian. When Clara started her business, I heard you gave her your savings for funding. I was struggling then too, and Clara sent me $500,000. No wonder her company had an unexplained $500,000 boost back then. With just a few words, I realized the immense extent of what Clara had done for Julian. This time, coming back home, I owe it all to Clara. "Leo, I mean no harm to you. Let's get along, all right?" It seemed like a request, but it felt like moral pressure. Julian, so ill and not asking for much, just wanted to get along. If I said no, I would seem completely heartless. I wasn't entirely sure what he meant by that. In the past, I might have become hysterical. No one would willingly share their relationship with someone else. But now, I just felt relieved that at least I was a normal person. Hearing such a bizarre request from them was just amusing. "Yeah, let's get along," I said. I knew there was no point in dwelling on it, so I agreed. After all, I would be leaving soon. There was no need to get worked up. That night, Julian slept in the master bedroom while Clara and I shared the smaller bedroom. Clara explained that Julian's condition was severe and he'd toss and turn at night. The master bedroom was soundproofed so he wouldn't disturb me. I agreed. Before sleeping, Clara hugged me like she always did. My back was against her chest, and I could feel her warm breath on my neck, but her words felt like knives. "Leo, I feel like Julian's changed. He's just not the same person anymore. Don't you think he's changed too? But I just can't let him go. I feel so guilty towards you, but I also can't let him go. You have to believe the only person I would ever marry is you. It's you I love." Maybe she had too much to drink with Julian before bed. Clara poured her heart out to me all night, telling me everything, things she should have and shouldn't have said. Just as I was getting drowsy and about to fall asleep, I suddenly felt the bed beside me become empty. Clara was gone. The next morning I bumped into her coming out of the master bedroom. She explained that she had just gone in to remind Julian to take his medicine. I didn't press her further, continuing to play the role of the understanding partner. While we were having breakfast, Julian mentioned he wasn't used to eating Chinese food. Clara quickly ran downstairs to the convenience store to buy a steak. Even though she wasn't much of a cook, she personally cooked the steak and brought it to Julian. He joked with me, saying, "Clara takes care of people so well. You must have been very happy all these years, right?" I just smiled and didn't say anything. Even though we had lived together for so long and Clara couldn't stand the smell of cooking, I was usually the one who cooked. I didn't even know she could fry a steak. She was so skilled, and the plating was beautiful. "She wasn't originally good at cooking," Julian said. "Every year when she came to visit me, she'd fry a steak for me, and over time she got good at it. You know, Clara's great at cooking Western food, right?" His tone had a bit of boastfulness, as if he were the one who had been with Clara all these years, not me. Clara looked at me awkwardly, apologizing for being too busy and promising she'd cook for me more in the future. I just laughed it off. After breakfast, she was eager to take Julian to the hospital for a checkup. When I came out of the bedroom with my suitcase, she looked confused and asked, "Going on a business trip? You didn't mention it?" "Yeah, business trip," I said. Clara was in a hurry to leave and didn't ask any further questions. She might have been too concerned with Julian, because the normally meticulous woman should have noticed that my documents were no longer at home, that almost every trace of me in the house had been erased. "Are you leaving now? My flight doesn't take off for another 3 hours, I said. The reality was, this would probably be the last time I'd ever see Clara. I had imagined before what life would be like without her, what leaving her would look like. I never thought it would just be an ordinary morning, nor did I think it would feel so calm. "Yeah, leaving now," I replied. Clara was at the door, supporting Julian, who had been complaining of discomfort. She saw me struggling a bit with my suitcase and wanted to help, but she stayed put because Julian couldn't be left on his own. "Let me give you a ride," she offered. "No need, it's out of your way. I can just grab a cab." Clara let out a small sigh of relief. She mindlessly took Julian downstairs. As she turned, I said to her, "Clara, goodbye." She was walking fast. She probably didn't even hear my farewell. At the airport, I got a message from Clara about Julian's medical report. She said his condition was bad. Not only did he have severe mental health issues, but he also had a serious infectious disease. She couldn't accept him like that. She planned to give up on him. "Leo, our wedding will happen as planned. Have you booked your parents' tickets?" I sent her a screenshot of my outbound flight ticket. "I've waited for you for so many years. I'm tired of waiting, Clara. Let's break up." The next moment, her call came through. "Boarding is now open for the flight to our destination. Please proceed to Gate 5, the airport announcement called out. Clara's last message read, "Leo, do you dare leave me?" "Why wouldn't I dare, Clara? I'm not your backup plan. I put up with it before because I loved you. But now, I don't love you anymore." I pulled out my SIM card and turned to board the plane without looking back. On the flight, I recalled meeting Julian for the first time. It was at an airport, too. The first time I saw him, I knew I could never replace his place in Clara's heart. He had that kind of striking, assertive charisma. Honestly, it wasn't just Clara. When I first saw him dressed as a student, even I was drawn to his boldness and confidence. I had been with Clara for a year when I met him. He greeted me with a broad smile, while I was completely on guard. After all, he was the ex-boyfriend Clara always yearned for. I didn't know if he was there to challenge me, flaunt his past relationship, or tell me I wasn't good enough for her. Surprisingly, the first thing he said was, "I'm getting married soon, don't worry. I have no hostility towards you. I'm just curious about her current boyfriend." Julian twisted a ring on his hand as he spoke, smiling even more charmingly when he mentioned his wife. I noticed then that when he wasn't smiling, his facial features somewhat resembled mine. That's when I finally realized why Clara had asked so many questions about my name the first time we met, if I had a brother or a sibling named Julian. It was also why she often said, I looked better when I wasn't smiling. Thinking back now, maybe Clara agreed to be with me partly because I resembled him. Julian didn't say much else. Seeing my curiosity, he gave me a brief rundown of their story. Clara had dropped out of school for a year just to get into the same college as him. Julian said that if I had seen Clara back then, I would have stayed far away, not even giving her a second glance, because she was a mess. It was Julian who had made Clara into the kind of person she was. He claimed that she wasn't like that before meeting him. One time, while leaving a bar, a drunk companion of his accidentally hurt him, and Clara stepped in to protect him. Julian found her intriguing, so he pursued her, and eventually they got together. I was eager for more details about what happened after that. Julian's tone shifted. He said that at the time, they were just having fun, but Clara took it all too seriously, so seriously that it scared him. So, he ditched her. He sighed, and I kind of understood why. Maybe he regretted missing out on Clara, but he seemed genuinely happy now. My wife will take me abroad and give me the best life, he said, his expression softening. And Clara should focus on college. We're not on the same path, but you two are. So, you're lucky. After we met, I sent a message to Clara to come and pick me up. I admit, it was partly to show my claim on her, but later I realized there was no need for that at all. I couldn't really understand the deep connection they had. When they saw each other, they wouldn't say a single word, but their eyes seemed to say a lot. I just didn't know what it was. Clara took my hand and asked why it was so cold. I don't get it. If Clara couldn't let go of Julian, why didn't she say anything back then? It took me until now to understand. Clara, back then, was scared of messing up Julian's life. After all, he seemed so happy, being picked up by his wife in a $1 million car. Meanwhile, in the dead of winter, I was breathing on my hands to warm them up while riding back to school on Clara's little electric bike. She didn't say another word on the way back. That night after we got back, we went to a small hotel near the campus. We completely became each other's. Right before I fell asleep, I heard Clara whisper that she would always be good to me. I never really understood their relationship. From my point of view, Clara had been somewhat held back by Julian. Before she took a break from school, she was the school's top science student. With her grades, there's no way she should have ended up just at our university. She could have done much better. But she missed out on those opportunities because of Julian. He even dumped her without a second thought. Yet Clara never blamed him and couldn't move on for years. I didn't get it before, but now it all makes sense. The reason is simple. Clara was naive. As soon as I stepped off the plane, I felt the intense UV rays. I hadn't seen sunshine this bright in a long time. "Leo, right? I'm from the art studio and your parents asked me to pick you up," a girl said, approaching me excitedly as soon as she saw me. "I couldn't reach you by phone. Good thing your flight wasn't delayed, or I'd have no idea how to find you." I shook my phone and explained. "I took out my SIM card from home. I'm cutting all ties." "So intense. Did you just break up with a girlfriend?" she joked while grabbing my luggage and leading me out of the airport. "Sort of," I replied. She chuckled and patted my shoulder. "Don't worry, this place won't disappoint you. We'll get you settled tonight, and then let's head to the studio." Her name was Mia. She nodded and led me to the car. On the way, she filled me in on the studio's current situation. My parents love traveling and collecting art, and sometimes their social obligations involve exchanging valuable gifts. They used to just collect pieces as needed, but then they figured they might as well set up a studio themselves, It's located here because of the lower taxes. They told me you have an art background, right? She asked. Yeah, but it's been a while since I've dabbled in it. For years being with Clara, I put all my effort into her career. As I glanced through the art collection portfolio Mia handed me, I found myself getting more and more intrigued. My parents had always planned for me to graduate and then pursue something I genuinely enjoyed. Lucky for me, I genuinely enjoy art appraisal. No wonder they sent me here first. Mind if I use your phone? I asked. Mia handed her phone over without hesitation. I called my parents to let them know I had arrived safely. They were relieved and said I could stay and enjoy myself for as long as I wanted. They'd handle everything for me. Leo, does Clara know you took off like this? My mom asked. She kept calling and even reached out to the administrator at your dad's company. She flew over to find us, but your dad and I turned her away. My mom still didn't approve of Clara, speaking with a clear disdain. She acts like she'd die without you now. What was she doing before? Good thing you're far away, or you'd have to deal with her. What a nuisance. I stopped trying to defend Clara to my parents. My mom used to say, if she really cared, she would have married you already. I always argued back, but now I could see they were right. A change of scenery really does affect a person. Although I still thought of Clara, this new life was keeping me busy. The studio was more complicated than I had imagined. Beyond just clearing accounts, it was more about reevaluating the artworks. Some had been collected over many years and needed their original purchase prices compared to today's market value to see if they had appreciated. A lot of the art needed reassessment and discussion. We had to consider its artistic value, industry trends, and marketability, along with whether it should be included in exhibitions to boost its exposure. Since I hadn't dealt with art transactions for a while, I had to quickly learn, attend exhibitions, and mingle at various industry events. Initially, it was tiring, but soon I found it fascinating, especially when pricing pieces with potential buyers and negotiating profit margins with sellers. After a month, Mia, the girl who picked me up at the airport, said I had changed. She said that when we first met, she thought I was just a boring, broken-hearted guy. It turned out she hadn't realized how lively and charming I could be. Maybe people here are just more generous with their compliments, but being here for a while, I did feel more confident. The sunshine here is plentiful, and being near the sea is exhilarating. I found myself enjoying outdoor activities much more than I did back home. After work every day, I often hung out with my studio buddies at a beach bar for a drink. We'd feel the sea breeze at sunset and take a stroll on the sand. On weekends, if I was free, I would go for a swim or just lie on the beach to catch some sun. My skin turned a healthy tan, and I toned up a bit. Earlier, I had lost a bet with my friends and had to dye my hair, so now I had some highlights. The sea breeze made it dry and rough, and it fell naturally. I started to give off a vibe of freedom and carefreeness. One evening, as always, I was having a barbecue with my studio mates by the sea. We were chatting about the latest art piece we had managed to snag when suddenly, one of them said someone was looking for me. Leo, I finally found you. It was Clara. I turned around and squinted in the sunset glow. It took me a moment to recognize her. Maybe it was the weariness from her travels, or maybe I had just grown used to the lively, smiling faces around me, but Clara looked especially tired. I finally found you, she repeated. I've checked flights, searched your parents' companies, asked around everywhere. Yeah, long time no see. I cut her off mid-sentence. I gave my friends a heads up that someone from home had shown up and I needed to step away for a bit. They teased me, saying I couldn't leave until I finished my drink. Used to their joking, I raised an eyebrow and was about to chug it when Clara snatched the glass from my hand. I'll drink it for you. You don't know how to handle booze. Clara barely took a sip before she started coughing. Actually, I'm not the one who can't hold their liquor. It's her. I sighed, grabbed the glass back from her while she was still coughing, and downed it in one go. Cheers erupted from my friends. I joined in the fun for a bit before turning back to Clara, who was standing awkwardly to the side. "All these years, you didn't know I can actually drink." Her voice was low. "I didn't really know because, you never drank around me." Her words just made me realize how amusing my past self was. Clara had quit drinking because of Julian. She said he hated drunkards and especially disliked her drinking. So, ever since I had met Clara, she hadn't touched a drop of alcohol. I wasn't a big drinker either, but in business there's always some drinking involved. Whenever we went for negotiations, since Clara couldn't handle it, I would take over for her. Thinking back to those times when I drank so much that my colleagues had to drag me back home, she would always look at me with such disdain. Later, whenever I got drunk, I'd sleep in the guest room, making sure to get rid of the smell of alcohol before seeing her. No wonder she didn't know. No wonder she thought I didn't drink. "Clara, you really don't know me at all. I can drink pretty well, actually. Sorry, does that bother you like it did Julian?" Clara's face flashed with anger, but she checked herself. "Don't bring him up. You're not like him." "I am not like Julian. He needed Clara to save him. I don't." "Julian didn't come with you?" "I wasn't trying to upset her. I was just genuinely curious. He wasn't doing well with depression and some infectious disease. If something happened, who would get blamed? What if Clara came to me saying she couldn't care for Julian because she came looking for me? I'd look like a real jerk, wouldn't I?" "Don't mention him. Julian and I have nothing to do with each other now." Clara's face was a mixture of disgust and contempt. I took 2 steps back, looking at Clara like I was seeing her for the first time. I had never noticed it before, but Clara is incredibly self-centered. She never truly loved Julian. She just loved herself. Otherwise, right before our wedding, she wouldn't have left me to pursue this dream guy of hers. But it turns out her dream guy was a jerk, and she couldn't save him. Then she comes back to me, realizing that maybe she should give me another chance. "Clara, you're really lame. I misjudged you. When you encountered Julian in college, you didn't approach him because you felt unworthy. But no, it was your pride that got hurt, so you pretended to be all magnanimous." Clara interrupted me, anxious to stop me. She got close, just like she used to during our fights, trying to drag me away and settle things with her usual cold treatment. But I wouldn't let her control me anymore. If she was here to find me just to put on this emotional scene, then I was going to speak my mind. I used some of the self-defense moves I had learned on her. A well-placed elbow strike freed me from her grasp. Standing there, Clara looked stunned, like she was meeting me for the first time. "Didn't think I'd first use self-defense on you," I muttered. After a while, she regained her composure. "Leo, we've been through years together. My feelings for you haven't changed." I used to love looking into Clara's eyes because every time I saw my reflection in them, I could convince myself that she cared for me, that she loved me. But now, looking into her eyes, all I saw were lies and my own wasted youth. She pulled out a ring box from her pocket and knelt on the sand. "Leo, let's forget about Julian. Treat it as a pre-wedding hiccup. I'll give you the best life." I didn't hear her words after that because when I saw the ring, I suddenly felt drained. I never thought the proposal I had waited for so long would happen on a foreign beach at dusk, without flowers, without a beautifully planned setup, with me wearing a simple shirt and jeans in such a casual place. This was where I received Clara's proposal. If this had been the past, I probably would have been thrilled. I mean, it was a proposal. I would have ignored all the bad stuff and happily accepted that ring. But now, all I wanted was to throw that ring box, and everything it represented, at her face. "So what? Am I supposed to wait all these years for you just to be your backup plan? Just like back then, when Julian dumped you and I showed up? Because my family has money? Because I look a bit like him? And because I really liked you and was ready to do whatever you wanted? You agreed to be with me. Did you expect me to always be there, ready to jump back into your arms whenever you called? Clara, I wish I'd never met you." I held back the urge to throw the ring at her face, turned away, and went back to the party with my friends. On the way back, I wasn't sure if it was the sea breeze being too salty or just sand in my eyes. My friends were smart enough not to ask too many questions. They handed me a tissue quietly and continued their conversation. Mia came over and gave me a pat on the shoulder, teasing me that when I first arrived, I had lied about having a complicated ex-girlfriend. I just gave her a look. She didn't care. "Leo, I know what your problem is," she said. "You need a new relationship to get over the last one. How about considering me?" Seeing the look on my face, Mia just shrugged. Then she jokingly suggested taking me to the liveliest place around so I could meet more women. I rolled my eyes and declined her ridiculous suggestion. After saying goodbye to everyone, I went back to the studio to work. The studio was unusually quiet, with just the sound of me sorting through files in a daze. Clara's afternoon look flashed in my mind. I suddenly remembered what she had said as I turned to leave her on the beach. "Leo, I'm only going to try to keep you this once," she had said. "Don't worry, I won't cling to you or try to see you again. You and Julian are the same. I don't want to face it again." I had walked away too quickly, too caught up in my own emotions to think hard about what she really meant. It was early in the morning when I heard the unusual sound of a siren. Mia burst in and dragged me out of the studio. That's when I found out why Clara had said what she did. She was covered in blood when the police took her away. In the darkness, it seemed like she smiled at me. "Leo, it's terrifying. Your ex-girlfriend dared to attack someone with a gun," Mia said. "But strangely, the person she attacked had nothing to do with you. She killed that gem collector from the next state over. He had even asked about you and was curious about your name. He said you two had a mutual friend named Julian. Mia is always quick with the news." While she rambled on about what happened that night, my mind went blank. I only caught a few keywords. Clara, gun, attack, killed someone, and another name. Julian. I blurted out his name before I even thought about it. Mia nodded at me in surprise. "Those stones he had were worth a fortune. It would have been easier to trade them in the next state. But when he heard your name, he insisted on coming here. She was probably the one who took Julian and then abused him." Mia didn't get what I meant by that. Later, when I looked into the collector's information and saw a picture, it dawned on me. Even though there was just a blurry silhouette back then, I trust my gut. Clara didn't just come to this country to win me back. She might have been seeking revenge. To avenge Julian and go after the person who had mistreated him for years. On the third day, the police called me in for questioning. "Have you been extorted, blackmailed, or threatened recently?" they asked. I could only shake my head blankly at their questions. They seriously asked about my safety, repeatedly inquiring if anything unusual had happened or if I had any enemies. I hadn't been here long. My social circle was mostly co-workers and industry contacts. There wasn't a chance for the things they were mentioning. Then, they showed me surveillance footage from around my home. They told me that over the past week, 2 people had been scoping out my place repeatedly. One of them, just this morning, had even laced the milk I usually order with a hallucinogen. I was in a rush today, and that was the only reason I had avoided it. Staring at the silhouettes on the footage, I recognized one of them was Clara. The police then took me to see her. Sitting down and seeing her vacant eyes, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. "You poisoned me?" I asked in disbelief. Clara smiled bitterly. "Leo, is that how little you think of me? I actually arrived here last week. I found you last week. Do you think I didn't seek you out immediately for no reason?" Her questions gave me goosebumps. "That man, he hurt Julian. He couldn't take Julian back home, but he found you. I remembered that I did go to the neighboring state for a trade fair before. I had never thought I would run into him. He knew about you, your connection to me. Clara was handcuffed, her body trembling. You followed him? Scared he would hurt me? My own voice shook. So that's what you meant. Not wanting me to go through what Julian did. Clara didn't answer me anymore. The police took her away. Soon, she would go through the legal process and be deported back home. At the time of her departure, she handed me a letter. Inside was a photo. It was from when we graduated together. I had written my graduation wish on it. Leo will marry Clara, a lifetime together. And on the back of the photo she had written, I owed you this. I hope I've paid it back. I felt like someone had hit my heart with a blunt object. It wasn't exactly heartache, just a lingering, heavy discomfort. Clara, this time it was the same. You couldn't hear my goodbye. 3 years later, Clara was released from prison. I had testified back then, and she was sentenced for excessive self-defense, so the term wasn't long. On the day of her release, I went to pick her up. I brought her back to the home we had shared for 7 years. I had hired cleaners to come and take care of it regularly, so other than being a bit old and missing any trace of me, it was the same as before. I prepared some herbs and a fire pit to ward off bad spirits, as was the local custom. I told her I had helped Julian find a job, and that he was doing fine in another city. I handed back the photo she had left me. Clara, I hope you can live well, I said. Clara didn't say a word, just stared at the wedding ring on my hand. You got married, she finally stated. As I was about to leave, she finally asked the question. Yeah, it's a good match. She loves me and I love her. I instinctively twisted the ring on my finger, just as Julian had done all those years ago when he told me he was getting married. I wish you happiness. After a long silence, Clara offered her blessing. If I hadn't suggested going to find Julian, would you... I didn't answer her because I didn't know the answer. After all, I was just an irrelevant bystander here. All those years were just me, waiting. Clara had always held the decision in her hands. Clara, I'm actually glad you brought it up, I said. Otherwise it would have been even harder to end. I intended for it to end gracefully, but that's reality. Clara didn't say any more. She swallowed the words of wanting me to stay. I wish you happiness, she said again. Yeah, I replied. I'll be happy.